Hey everyone, how's it going? Welcome to my living room. I was hoping to do a bit of a chill chat today about a reading project that I've been working on so far this year, and I haven't talked about it on my channel yet, but I started back in April, and I'm planning on turning this reading challenge into a series of videos, and I'm almost ready to make my first of those videos, so I thought it would be a good idea to have a video explaining what it is exactly that I've been getting up to this year. I've always been the kind of reader who is drawn to a good challenge. There have been a few summers in my life where I've done A to Z alphabetical challenges where you try to read one book starting with each letter of the alphabet, and that's always been a fun one for me. But I'm trying to mix it up as I get older and to have things be progressively more challenging. So this challenge is all about reading the 20th century. So what I'm trying to do here is to have read at least one book that's been published in each year of the 20th century. I came up with the idea for this challenge when I was trying to figure out what my favorite era of literature would be. So I noticed that most of my favorite books do come from the 20th century, and more specifically, I was noticing a lot of the ones that I love are from the 1950s and the 1960s. And then I thought it could be fun to rank the decades against each other at the end and just see where my tastes gravitated towards. So in order to make it more of a fair fight, I thought I'd have to have at least 10 books under my belt for each decade to become more well-rounded. So in order to complete this challenge, I'll need to read one book published in each year of the 20th century, which means a total of 100 books. And I've decided to be nice to myself, and I will count books that I've read before in the past towards this challenge. So there are some years where I'm already good, I've read a book that I really liked, and I will count it towards the challenge. I do, however, have quite a few gaps to fill in, especially in the first 25 years of the century. From 1900 to 1925, I have a lot of blanks in my chart. So that's where most of my reading needs to come from. There were also a few years where I technically had read a novel, but it wasn't very good, so I'm going to try to find something that I might like a little bit better. So by the end of this process, hopefully I'll have a solid list of books that I enjoyed reading for the most part. So that is my first list of books, are ones that I have to read because I do not have anything for that year. My second list is called my bonus list, although this list is even longer than the first one. These are all the 20th century books that I have on my TBR that I've been really excited to get to, and this seems like a great excuse to read them. My bonus list is pretty long, not gonna lie. I came up with a list of about 50, and I keep adding more to it every day because there's just so many great 20th century books that I own that I would love to read for this. So the TBR for this challenge is a little out of control. It is over 100 books. So not a challenge that I'm going to be finishing by the end of the year. Hopefully it's one that is going to keep me busy for the next little while. I'm not sure that I want to film a TBR for this project because there are lots of books I plan on reading, and I do kind of keep changing my mind about what's on the list every now and then. But if that's something that you want to see, if you want to see the books that I'm planning on reading in the next few months for this challenge, let me know, and that will maybe sway me in that direction. So that's the main gist of the challenge, but I do have 3 rules that I wanted to mention. So the first one is that I am only reading novels for this project. I thought it would be more useful if I narrowed the focus of this challenge, and it would be kind of cool to see how the novel has progressed and developed and changed throughout these 100 years. So that is going to be my focus. My second rule is that I can only count one book per author for my list. So this makes things a little bit more challenging because not only do I have to read 100 books, but I also have to read 100 authors. So there are some authors like William Faulkner who I love, and I've read quite a few of his novels, and he could have really helped me get through the 1930s, but instead I just have to pick one of his books. And you have to get a little bit strategic, which one do you want on the list? And what I'm finding is there's already a lot of conflicts. When you have 2 books that came out in the same year and you have to pick one over the other, some very heart-wrenching decisions are happening over here. But I'm hoping that this decision will help introduce me to a lot more authors from this period. And lastly, my third rule is that for each decade, I need to include at least one book that's written by a female author and one book that is a work in translation. Now, I'm hoping, of course, that there's going to be more than one per decade, but I did notice as I was putting this list together, it's not the most diverse reading selection of all time. I am kind of going with the books that I already own or books that are easy for me to access. And unfortunately, my tastes just tend to skew towards male authors and books written in English, but I am going to try to include some diverse perspectives for each decade. So that's it for the rules that I have for this challenge. They are pretty open-ended. What I'm hoping to accomplish with this project on my channel is to turn it into a series of videos where we do decade by decade breakdowns. So I'm hoping for each decade we can talk about the books that I've read and talk about what they have in common, things that are different, how they're responding to social issues of the time, and how they read from a modern perspective. So I'm hoping we'll have a lot of fun things to talk about as I read my way through the 20th century. I did recently just finish my first decade from 1900 to 1909, and that was a weird one, so I'm excited to make my first video. But yeah, that's really all I've got to say about this project for now. Please let me know in the comments down below if you have a favorite book from the 20th century, because like I said, I'm always changing my TBR and adding books on, so if you have a 20th century favorite that you think I must get to in this challenge, please let me know and I would be happy to consider it. Thanks so much for checking out this video, and I will see you again later.